All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening again, everybody. My name is Kaylee Podrusky. I am the Partner Training and Enablement Manager here. I'd like to get it kind of kicked off with some introductions. We've got some new faces on the call today for this workshop, and then I'll go over the agenda. But Kayla, if you'd like to get started and introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Caela, Director of Customer Experience at JAXXON. I've been here a little over 5 years now. And this is just such a fun and important topic. And I'm really excited to be able to talk about how things have worked for us and hope that everyone can, learn something new, or if they have tips of like, hey, this worked for them. It's always great to be able to discuss these things with other brands.
Yeah, definitely. Dean, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Hello, everyone. Yeah, I'm Dean Palmer. I'm a senior product manager here at Okendo. My remit is reviews, which is obviously why we're here today. I'm relatively new to Okendo. I've been here for 7 months. And yeah, I'm actually really excited this morning to run through our new reporting and how it kind of works with what Kayla's kind of putting down for JAXXON and how you can kind of measure some of the areas that she's talking about. So yeah. Super psyched.
Yeah, we're definitely really excited for this one. Obviously, 100,000 five-star reviews is no easy feat. So we're excited to kind of dive into that strategy. If this is your first time joining one of our workshops, um, the flow of it is kind of why is it this strategy important? How is our leaders thinking about it like Kayla? And then how you can actually apply that with Okendo. So agenda-wise, we're going to get started diving into kind of the original strategy and how it came to be. And then we'll dive into the tactics and strategies from the playbook. If you have not had a chance to check out the playbook yet, no problem. There's no homework or pre-workshop uh, requirements in order to be here today. We are going to send it out afterwards because it's definitely worth a read, but we'll dive into some of the strategies that you see listed there. We'll talk about what's next. And then one really important thing to note is that Q&A at the end of the agenda is very much a suggestion. These are designed to be very interactive, very conversational. So don't feel like you need to hold out questions to the end. Throw them in the chat. We're going to be answering them as we go. And then, of course, we baked in tons of times for questions throughout. And anything we don't get to right away, we will make sure we answer at the end. Great. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and let's talk about, what the background is. And Kayla, reviews are the strategy at JAXXON. And I think that's really interesting. A lot of brands really, most brands have reviews, but the way that you guys are thinking
Mhm.
about them and applying them is really unique and really different. And I'd love to kind of talk through, how that came to be and how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's something that I've always focused on, kind of since day one. Like, wanted to make sure my team really had, a process for this, a strategy. And I think it's one you get to learn from your customers. Your customers are giving you feedback. You're able to really understand kind of what the pulse is on how you're doing. But kind of over time, wanted to be like, this is something I can really start implementing new things and be creative with it. And it's really easy to do that with Okendo. But for me, it's like 100,000, like that's a big number. And I think, we definitely have used our reviews and our ads over time, but it's like when we hit 75,000, I'm like, that was amazing. But you can't really put like, oh, we have 76, we have 77, we hit 80. I was like, I want to go big and I want to hit 100,000 5-star reviews. And with that, it's everything that comes along with it. So it's not just being able to say we've hit that goal. It's all the information and data you get by getting those reviews.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what I love the most is obviously the scale of it is really, really impressive, but it's also the really intentional way that you're placing them throughout the customer
Mhm.
experience. And you already mentioned you're using them in marketing communications and things like that.
Mhm.
And social proof is really, it's not a checkbox. It's something that really guides a lot of buying decisions and things like that. So I think
Right.
it's the intentionality of it and all the different places that you're able to use it, not just on site in your display widgets for people to kind of peruse.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's one of those things where a customer, like, they don't know for sure if they're going to make that purchase. They want to see what other people are saying. They want to know, like, hey, is this just you guys just big talk? We say certain things, you make certain claims, but you have something to back it up. And that's where it can be a challenge when even like I don't have a huge team, but we make it work that we're responding to every review. We're going out of our way to ensure that when we talk to customers, we have that opportunity for them to leave reviews. And I think it's just one of those things like you come up with a plan, a strategy, and then put it into action.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, obviously the playbook, there's so many strategies in there, and we're gonna, in just a second, dive into the first one here, which I'm really excited for. But I think having a strategy and having that intentional approach to reviews or to whatever kind of area of the customer journey you're focusing on is so important. And I really love the intentionality behind it. But we'll kind of dive into the first strategy here, always on incentives. And I think, I mean, what you've said here is really interesting. It's not that you're incentivizing the sentiment, but wow, the engagement itself. So how did this come to be? We'll get into like the tiered strategy of it in just a second, because I think that's really cool. But how
Yeah,
did you
I
arrive here?
I think for me, it was, I've seen other brands, they'll say, hey, you get $20 off for a 5-star review. And maybe they get $20 off regardless of what review, if they give a 1-star or 5-star. But I think for me, I never want customers to feel like we are trying to buy a positive
Mhm.
sentiment. Because those negative reviews are just as important. Like we need
Right.
to know when something's not going right. And maybe this is the only place that person's willing to give that feedback. But you also want the customer to feel like what they have to say matters. And you're kind of putting that choice in their hands. And for us, we do incentivize up to like reviews. And when you add media, there's more. So it gets them maybe, I hope it gets them excited to be able to send that, give their feedback, send that review, send a picture or video. And then now they have, a promo code or, credit to then shop and buy something new. And then you just continue that cycle. So for us, that's where I wanted customers just to feel, hey, if you participate, like we're happy to, that you are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touched on a really great point that you not only want the customer to feel heard and like their feedback is really being listened to and matters, but from the sh perspective of a shopper, it really builds brand trust when you see that there's
Hmm.
really honest reviews out there, really robust reviews where there's photos and videos that I can kind of see results or see how
Yeah.
something, a necklace, how long it's going to be. Because if you're me and you tell me the length of something, I don't know what that means. So
Yeah.
if I can see what it looks like on myself or on somebody with
Right.
exactly.
No, I think that's what's so important. And I think sometimes when we see different photos or videos, like you get to see it in real life, what that's like. And I think it's also about, maybe you don't identify with the models we have in our ads, or like, hey, you love this athlete, but you don't look like that athlete. That's okay. You can see other people, the
Mhm.
different types of customers we have. Um, I think yeah, and it's great too. Like, I mean, hey, words are enough sometimes, but we also want to, reward people who do take time out of their day to take a picture, to take a video. Um, and then it also just really gives us kind of a pulse on like, hey, this is how our customers engage with us. This is how they want to engage. And it does give us
Mhm.
other ideas of like, hey, how can we do more engagement with our customers?
Yeah, exactly. And, it just creates this really meaningful connection, not only for the customer, but for the shopper themselves. And this tiered system that you have here, where you're incentivizing them to submit videos, it just is going to help you get so much more valuable feedback at scale. And I'm going to hand it over to Dean here in just a second, who's going to show you kind of how you can track incentives with how incentives are performing within reviews performance reporting. So I'll stop sharing here, but while we're getting that passed over, what I'd love to see in the chat is if you aren't, or if you are incentivizing, are you doing something similar? What are you using? If you aren't, what are you interested in trying out? What have you seen that you like or that you seem successful from a shopper perspective?
Cool. I'll jump in here. Thanks, Kayla. So yeah, I think I agree 100% with the sentiment around always on incentives because like from my experience, even just being here for the time I've been here, I've worked with clients and the merchants who have seen just massive upticks in their review rate from putting incentives on and also experimenting with incentives. So the value, what they're incentivizing as well. So just reviews or UGC as well. And I just wanted to show, so those on the call that haven't seen this is our new performance reporting. This went live last week, so you all have access to this in your account. It's under insights, and then you've got performance. And yeah, I just wanted to touch on again in reference to like how you would track, as Caela mentioned, using those incentives if you're not already, or even changing those or doing experiments. So you're not running blind. You can actually use the review rate. As I mentioned before, I've spoken to customers who have weren't using incentives and have turned them on and seen this chart rise right up. So you can kind of use that as well. And basically, yeah, that's kind of how that all works. You also can see in I've got a capture tab somewhere. Do you'll be able to see your reviews tick up as well. So there's a slight difference between the two things there that I was mentioning, where review rate is basically calculated for eligible orders versus the reviews that are coming in. But if you want that kind of have some in and outs with kind of how your sequences work. So any changes in there you'd also be able to see. But then if you just want a black and white kind of view, you can also see the reviews received. So if you hit this periodically, you'd be able to see blips here going up or down depending on the experiments you're doing. And yeah, so you'd be able to see that coming in. And then we also have on the capture tab. Um, You'll be able to see down the bottom, we've also got the media uploads. So again, depending on what you're trying to do, if you're trying to do a big push on UGC and you're doing that with incentives, you would see here, hopefully, these start to rise, these numbers for photos and videos as well. I just want to touch on one thing before I hand back over to Caela. You're also not running blind. So I know that obviously if you're running incentives, there is a monetary value behind that. Obviously, you're giving something for free, you're doing coupons. So we've just got on a dedicated coupon page just to help you understand, like, yes, you might be getting more reviews, getting more of that sentiment through, but what is that actually costing you? So you can kind of just make sure you're hitting that nice balance. So just on this page, we've got some high level numbers, see how many coupons are being used, the value of the orders that they're being used against, and most importantly, the monetary value behind those coupons actually being used. This is the money that is kind of used as they're being kind of put against an order, and you can track that over time as well. So yeah, hopefully that just shows how you can track that through the whole cycle as you want to experiment with incentives. I'll hand over to Caela.
Yeah, I mean, I love that you can kind of track all of that and that you're not just seeing how much people are enjoying your products or how your products are performing, but how your incentive strategy is performing and your overall review capture strategy. And Caela, maybe you want to speak a little bit to
Yeah.
the data. Sorry, I think I interrupted you a little.
No, no, not at all. I think it's one of those things we've definitely tested over time. Maybe when we're a little review light, maybe we're thinking like, hey, would a higher incentive, work more? Would that be better? Sometimes it's also we've definitely tried, hey, is maybe incentivizing like at a much higher level the media stuff. Like, does that work? But then it's also cool to see the numbers of like if those customers are actually coming back, understanding, do they even need, what do they need to come and leave this review? And what is that doing for, the lifetime value of the customer? And I think it's just interesting to try these things out. Like, I know at JAXXON, we love testing things. For me, through this process, being able to try things that are more personalized, more automated, what can I manually do? What can I do with my team? I think it's just about, you just gotta, sometimes test things out, see how they work. But now with all this new reporting, I know for me, if I'm able to see more of like what this actually means, I'm able to bring that back to other departments, to my boss, and discuss like, hey, this is what I tried. it's going really well. What can we do more of that's gonna make an impact?
Yeah, I love that constant feedback loop that those views give you of, is this working? Can we tinker with it a little bit to make it work better? Or, where are those gaps? And you just mentioned
Mhm.
you use a lot of different channels when you're capturing reviews. And the next couple of strategies that we're going to dive into really, you know, illustrate that, particularly targeted sends. And I'd love to kind of chat through like why targeted sends, where these like kind of live within the customer experience, and
Yeah.
you know, how you got there.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm that customer who I will forget to write a review. Um, it's just like I will see it. I'm like, oh, I love it. Like obviously, like, I buy something, I love it, and I don't review it. And it's just sometimes you forget, you get caught up. Maybe you read the email and then you completely forgot to follow through. Um, Targeted send is a great way to go back and just remind those customers, hey, they can still do something like this. I think also it's great if maybe, you had a very busy holiday season. And I think that's a time where people are shopping for a ton of things. Like they may not be, have the energy to review every single item they purchased.
Mhm.
Um, so one, in that way, you can go back and give those people a little bit of a reminder. However, there's also strategies of like, I want to do a targeted send of everyone who purchased a watch in the last 6 months, because I'd like more watch reviews. And clearly, we're selling them. I want to learn more about that. Um, or certain things were like maybe, hey, we had way more orders in 1 month, and we didn't even have enough credits to send that many reviews. So then I can kind of get that overflow from another month and go back in time. And there's just so many ways you can utilize it. And I think something I mean, I'm still trying to work on how can I best analyze the data from that. But all I know is that like we send those out, we're seeing kind of that boost, that surge of reviews, and that's always incredible to see. And I think it's just about, hey, trying to capture those customers who I'm sure they would love to do a review, but sometimes you just need to remind them.
Yeah, that's absolutely myself. If you send me a review reminder, one, I might have forgotten to even start using something yet, and I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
So those targeted sends are really great because I need a reminder, and even with,
Yeah.
traditional sequences where you already have that built in, sometimes that extra push is really great. And I think the way that you've segmented these of purchase month, product category, and then like you said, like key products that you're really looking to get more reviews on,
Mhm.
whether it be like a watch or something, I think you're really, really smart and really intentional, and that
Mhm.
really helps as you're targeting specific audiences. And Dean, maybe you want to jump in here and kind of show how you can identify whether it be like a product where you might need more reviews or another
Yeah, definitely.
specific audience.
I certainly can. Yeah, so I think that was a great example, I think, before like Kay was talking about where I think you're saying like watches, you might want to go out and figure out you can kind of push watches. So there's a couple of different examples. So I'll start with that one where for our on the product page, it's actually the landing page for reporting. We've got kind of all the high level information that you'd want to kind of see. So we've got reviews received, the amount that are published, and your kind of average rating. And at the top, you'll see this table. And essentially, what you can do is for Kayla's example, I guess. What we've actually got is so it starts off with all products. So we're kind of looking at your entire catalog, but this is some of my test data, but if you'd imagine, like, you can search by product or even a group of products. So, say in Kaylee's example, you wanted to kind of check in on watches and understand, okay, so from that product group, um, I'd like to see, how they're performing. You'd be able to kind of grab a group and kind of load that in. And then in this table itself, you could actually start to look at which ones are underperforming, whether one is performing really well, and then kind of target. Obviously, I've only got one example here. And then, so if that's the example for where you kind of know what you're looking for, that Kayla mentioned, but um, maybe you don't know. Maybe you're kind of looking, well, is there a part of my catalog that is lagging? Is there a product where we're selling really well? I think this is something we spoke about, Kelly, where it's like,
Mhm.
something's selling really well, but we're just not getting um, reviews for that one. So you can kind of come in and see, well, is that an anomaly? Is that just one of my products? Or like my example here, I've actually got a lot of products that have only got one review. And say I knew that they were still selling well, I'd be able to come in here and kind of maybe start to target some of these and understand kind of where that's falling down. So we're just trying to give that flexibility here for um, to give you the freedom because you're obviously all experts for your stores and your catalogs, right? So we want to give you the freedom to go in and do the job you're trying to do at that point in time. We also want to give you that full visibility where there might be something that wasn't apparent before or that wasn't really front and center. You kind of come in and say, okay, actually, I'm just today, I want to just see like, have I got any really low reviewed products that shouldn't be that low? And kind of then you can see whether that is the case and then start to target them. And I just wanted to also touch on that targeted send piece, which I agree, like that's we do reminders obviously. They work well, but like obviously like you just sometimes you just want to target something. So I think that is a great approach and again a lot of clients I talk to use this approach. But I just want to talk about how with everything kind of going on, how you might be able to tell whether that itself has had a good impact, rather than just your review rate and reviews coming in that we talked to before, because obviously, like that is at scale against your entire program. So if you're doing small experiments in there, it might be a little bit difficult to understand, like, was that the impact? Was that part of that? Or was it something else? Was it something seasonal? So I just wanted to run through um, what is our review flow. Now, this is a really, really simplified version of this just for this call, just to make sure that I can kind of explain what we're seeing here. But what this is basically us taking your sequence data and kind of running it out in this visual flow, which is called a Sankey chart. Um, Now, in the example here, you'll see I've kind of simplified it with our test data. We've got 50% review rate, which would be fantastic, but this is just an example, and kind of our time to review. So basically, what's happening here is I'm able to see how orders come in to Okendo, and how they kind of run through this flow. So I've got orders, they're eligible orders here. Mine actually goes into two sequences, and I'll come back to this in a second. And you'll see at one of these sequences, I've got a review left. So that's one of my outcomes. Another outcome is your UGC, which I don't have on here, but you would see that as another positive green outcome. And one is still in the sequence. So that gives me my kind of 50% view rate. Yours will look different to this because you'll have kind of more complicated sequencing, but that's basically the idea. So you can kind of see how successful your sequences are and also each step in the sequence, so reminders, that kind of thing. And why I bring this up in relation to what Caela was talking about is if you were to run a targeted send through a specific sequence that you would use for targeted sends, you'd actually be able to come in here and see, like, imagine this would say, like, maybe targeted send. And I'd be able to follow that path and say, okay, I targeted in this month, I targeted this watch collection. And you'd be able to come in and see, like, outside of it being kind of mixed in with the other review rate and reviews coming in, be able to actually track it here and say, okay, I can see it's actually got really good review rate and UGC coming through because I can track it through this kind of journey. So I just want to touch on this as another tool to kind of deep dive into what's actually happening and how your shoppers are interacting with basically your outreach in Okendo. So yeah, I'll hand it back over.
That's awesome. I love that diagram for being able to see which channels are really performing well and which sequences and timing and things like that. And you can really get into the nitty-gritty of what's working and hopefully also where the gaps lie and what's not. Right?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So, Caela, this next strategy we're going to dive into is, I don't think I've even told you this. This one is my favorite when I was reading through the playbook for the first time. This high touch outreach for premium feedback. I think it's it was not only obvious to me that it would be really effective, but I think what I love most about it is just that personal touch that you're putting in here. And I'd love to kind of hear more about it from your perspective.
Yeah, I think for us, this was a game changer. So for us, when a customer reaches out to us in Gorgeous, through our email, live chat, SMS, we use a Gorgeous macro to be able to then trigger a review invite. And that review invite is not for a specific product, but rather for the service interaction. So for us, we do this, all the time. I think what I talk to my team about is, hey, if you have a great interaction, send them that macro. One, that does help you boost a lot of your reviews because I think customers, if you have a great interaction, you do hope you have a 5-star review. We tell our customers, hey, if you feel like, you want to, give me a shout out. And that ties it back to there's an actual person there talking to you. So I love seeing that when it's like, hey, Avery helped me with this. Isla, she was able to take care of my return really quickly. And you start to say, I'm like, wow, like every single one is a shout out. Um, and then I think too, it's one of those kind of things when I talk to my team where I'll be like, hey, you didn't send macros for any of these tickets. Did you not think that was a great interaction? Then it helps us talk, between me and my team of like, what do we think a great interaction is? What do you think you could have done better? Was there anything you needed to do? And I think that also that takes it back to how you can do stuff with your team. But we stopped doing CSAT invites specifically so we could focus on reviews. And that may work for you and your brand may not work. Something we wanted to try out just based on how we also review and QA other tickets. And it was kind of one of those things where I was like, hey, I'd rather get reviews. And if they're negative or positive, like I said, that doesn't matter. I want to be able to read through those. And this has just been one of those great ways to do it. And it's so simple to be able to just click on that macro, send it out. And then we do track those and we use that to incentivize our team as well. And those specifically, we have a much higher review rate for specifically this type of invite compared to the ones that we send out through a sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. When I first read this strategy, it was really an aha moment of it's almost like when you're walking into a brick and mortar store or a
Hmm.
restaurant or coffee shop or whatever it might be that you go to a lot and you
Hmm.
know the person that you're talking to or they remember
Yeah,
something about a previous experience. It just forms this kind of like emotional connection with the brand that forms this really strong connection and this
yeah.
long-term loyalty. So they're not just purchasing one time, but now there's an emotional investment and they're going to keep coming back. And I just thought it's so simple, but it's just so smart. And I really
Hmm.
loved it. And I'd love to know in the chat if anyone else is doing something similar, other ways that you're kind of building these meaningful emotional connections. Something else, Caela, that you said that I thought was really interesting is not just when a negative review has been left and when a positive review has been left, but when there has been no review and how you're using that as a learning time as well. I think that's, you know, sometimes no input is also input.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's great for us to track, we'll see, hey, 750 macros were sent this month, and we see, maybe we got 10%, maybe we got 50%. Like there's been times where we've really gotten a ton of responses. Um, but then yeah, then I talk to my team and I'll kind of look and see like, hey, you've never sent one of those macro, get a review. And then it's great to be able to talk to that person and understand why, like about your own team structure and how you can do better with managing your team. But then it's like at the same way to like understand our customers, sometimes maybe a customer did have a great experience. I can read through a ticket and be like, oh, this was great, like great job. But there are always going to be customers who we still forget to complete that survey, or maybe they don't have the time. They love the interaction but they don't feel like leaving a review, and that's okay too. And I think that's where it helps us understand like what is the best way to be getting reviews from customers, and understanding where you can still do a good job but maybe you don't ever get a response, and that's okay too. But I think it's all part of learning of like what are the strategies you should be putting your time into. um, are you even reading the data and analyzing this all in the right way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think reviews are a lot more than just social proof in that sense, where it's
Hmm.
real-time insight into customer sentiment and that you can really use
Yeah.
to optimize not just your product or your,
Hmm.
systems and things like that. I think that's what's really cool. And y'all are using just so many channels.
Hmm.
As you're collecting reviews, and I think that's what's really interesting as well. And I know a lot of our customers are also using a lot of different channels. So I want to talk a little bit about your review ecosystem. And what I love in the playbook is that you've listed out kind of what each channel does and how it
Hmm.
benefits in a different way than maybe just having, you know, you're approaching each channel differently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, for us, there's so many ways that a customer can leave a review. And I think we're always learning of like what is best. Do we need more? Do we need more areas for customers to leave reviews? Or do we want to kind of trim that down and make sure we're focusing on the ones we like the most? But I mean, for us, like, hey, yeah, we're using Okendo. We use Attentive, we have journeys for both SMS and email. So to be able to understand, like, do customers like to leave their reviews, when they get that SMS request versus an email? Um, Obviously, like I just talked about, using that macro tool with Gorgeous. I mean, also on the other hand, of like we moderate everything within Gorgeous, so like having that integration makes things really simple. And I think the shop app as well, that is driving additional review volume, and then to be able to see kind of where yeah, where if customers leave their reviews directly in the shop app, that obviously it's integrated in there. And it's just another way we can learn kind of where is it easiest for customers to meet us, to give us their feedback and share about their experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, I sometimes think of it as like the path of least resistance, where some people
Hmm.
are going to be, as you mentioned, you have both email and SMS channels for these review request emails and texts. And some people will respond to a text. If you text me, I'm going to respond probably within a day. If you send
Hmm.
me an email, probably 3 to 5 business days, especially if it's a
Yeah.
personal email. So
Yeah,
understanding, which segments of your audience prefer which type of outreach is just really valuable in
absolutely.
capturing and maximizing these systems.
No, it's totally true. And I think too, that helps us really, reviews can sometimes be one of those things you set it up and forget about it. You're like, it's working, it's doing it, it's fine.
Mhm.
Um, but things change and you need to be able to kind of go back and like, is this still the best way to do something? Does this still look good? Like to me, if I was going to go leave a review, does this make sense to me now? And I think that's where sometimes you just got to be able to put in the time and yeah, make it a part of your workflow. So I think that's where it can be an easy thing to set up. And if that's all you can do, you've done part one. You know what I mean? But if you do have the ability to put a little bit more time into it, you can make this a real part of your strategy and really, like we do. We put it in our ads, we use it as a conversation starter. It's there's so many uses for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Dean already kind of gave a preview of that Sankey diagram where you're able to see how those channels are really performing and allowing you to see where reviews are being submitted. And then on top of that, you're able to see like where you're getting the most quality reviews, where you're getting the most UGC, things like that, so that you can see which channels are allowing you to say, well, I can pull marketing material from this, or I can pull other things
Absolutely.
from this. And that visibility into it just allows you to make such, more data-backed, quicker decisions versus the manual work that
Absolutely.
it needs.
No, totally. I think there's just so much you can do. And it is great, like that, data is so important to us. And I think anytime there's a new feature, it's like it's really exciting to be able to see how that helps you. I think even just sometimes I'm like, "Ugh, I never even thought this was something I needed to pay attention to." Um, and you're really able to take that, take your whole strategy to another level.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on that note, I'd love to kind of hear a little bit, now that you have all this data, you've mentioned that you love testing and iterating, kind of what are you thinking of next? What are you looking forward to testing out? Anything like that that you can share?
Yeah, I think for me, I was able to speak with Dean last week prior to this and was able to learn a lot from the new abilities with how to report and just, playing around within the kind of review or the performance. So for me, I think sometimes it's not just like, hey, I need to pull a quick report. I want to be in there. I want to see like sometimes that just brings ideas to me. Um, I think focusing more on the customers, like the different segmentation of customers is going to be really cool to be able to see like, hey, I mean, I can just see this in some of the media that's attached to these reviews, where it's like we have a lot of older customers who love to leave a photo or a video. They might not always be the best quality, but that's okay because I've learned something from that, and I can then I can do something about it. I can share that with other departments. So to be able to learn a little bit more about those demographics, about, how can I use different segmentation to do very specific targeted sends and then track them. And I think too, as we bring out new products, or as we want to focus on products that we just haven't given a little, we haven't given a lot of love, but we see they're selling, just getting being able to focus really specifically on, hone in on one thing or a few things. So I think that's where it is for me. And then of course, to be able to understand too, what is my next big goal? If 100,000 was that number that I was like, I'm gonna make it happen. And it's gonna happen sooner than I told people that I was going to make it happen. So just kind of holding yourself, I mean, everybody needs some gamification and some goals, even if they're really lofty, to just be like, okay, we can do this, and then take the time to really learn from it too. Just don't be like, hey, I want to hit this number, and then you're like, whatever, I'm not going to do anything with any of that. You just gotta you gotta make it work for you. And maybe it's different per team, but I think it's always something where it's just such an easy thing to be able to create a plan for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, being able to make educated guesses in that plan when you have access to that data is so important. And I
Yeah.
know in the chat earlier, somebody had mentioned that they give away a free product in exchange for a review when they're going to be launching a new product. And I think you had mentioned kind of being able to get into, which products may need some love in terms of reviews, or
Hmm.
being able to be really intentional about how you're rolling things out is really important. Um, and I just think the reviews data really lends itself very nicely to that. And I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to make sure that we have plenty of time for questions in the chat if anyone would like to add those in. But Dean, Kayla, any kind of insights as people are dropping questions for us? Anything that I didn't ask you that you think I should have?
No, I mean, I think for me, this is always something that I love to talk about. It always surprises me when I bring this up to maybe someone I've just met who works at another brand, and they're like, "Oh, we don't do anything with reviews." And I'm like, "Why? What is it?" So to be able to learn too, like, what is it stopping others from putting their time into this, is always really interesting. And I think for me, it's just always to get better at how to use our data. And sometimes it's things like this where I'm like, oh, that just popped into my head, to hear what you guys are saying in the chat as well. Having these conversations really does push kind of the idea factory of like, this is what I can do different, or I want to think about this a little bit more.
Yeah. And we got a question in the chat here in the Q&A one. It's, are you using reviews on marketing ads and marketing emails? And if so, how?
Yeah, so we currently we have it in a lot of our emails, kind of like as an image. We have it as a banner on our website. We have used it in ads as well. I think for a long time, we were just showing off 75,000 5-star reviews. 'Cause, I mean, you're not gonna, I think I said earlier, I was like, I'm not gonna say 77 or 78 or whatever. I was like, we'll just wait till we hit 100, and we'll do that. And I think that was a nice moment to celebrate as well. We were able to hit that right before November. Um, but also we do use it as like in our macros when customers contact us and like, hey, how do I even know if you guys are legitimate or whatever? Hey, here's a great thing we can talk about it, and here's how you can find the reviews too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many brands online, and if you're like me and you're constantly on social media or I don't know, wherever you get your information these days, you're always seeing new brands and you don't always
Yeah.
know, you know, if it's a credible brand or, what people are saying about it, and if it's a new product that you've never tried before, kind of what others are saying about it and how it might work for you. So I think that's really using social proof as that
Hmm.
top of a funnel is such a great way to build brand trust from the get-go. And
Yeah.
give people the confidence that they need to maybe try new products or try a new brand. And then,
Absolutely. Yeah. I think just to give people, they know that people have shopped here and this is what they've said, I think is really good, especially when you only are online. You never know for sure unless you've experienced it.
yeah, it kind of gives you a little bit of that like try on room experience in an e-commerce world. And I
Yeah.
think that's really great. We've got another question in the chat. So, what about product feedback? Do you have a feedback loop set up?
Definitely. So I think one thing is kind of the in the moment stuff. When we're moderating reviews, we'll see, hey, we just noticed someone gave up, like, they really called something out. Or for me, when especially when we drop new products, kind of keeping an eye on what people are saying. Are we even getting reviews for this? And then kind of comparing that as well, like, hey, we sold 1,000 of this product, but I have 2 reviews. Like, why? Are they returning them? And that kind of sends you down the rabbit hole of trying to find out the answers. But as well as like I meet with my product team regularly, and part of that deck that I put together is the product reviews and being able to share not just the numbers, but like the qualitative evidence, the anecdotal evidence of like, hey, we're noticing a bunch of women are buying this as gifts for their husbands, their boyfriends, or like kids really love this and they're wearing it to their baseball games, and trying to be able to pull out those nuggets too, because if that's something that it's great to hear those things. If it can inspire maybe a new idea or a new campaign, then that's great as well, and I can be able to provide that to those departments.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great way to be able to segment marketing communications based on product feedback. So it's not just what are people saying about it, but who specifically and
Mhm.
how can we make our marketing communications a lot more intentional and a lot more targeted so
Yeah.
people are getting the information that they're really going to most care about. I love that.
Mhm.
See, any other questions in the chat for us here? Oop. Do you do anything specific with bad reviews? I love that question.
Yeah, I think for directly within my own, like my CX team, it's something we talk about where we first always start, was this within our control or out of our control? So I think that helps us understand, is this something that we directly contributed to, or was it, was it out of our control? Was it something that was from our warehouse team, or was it like a carrier issue? Here's how
Mhm.
we can kind of look at these different things. As well as though, like if I see, a comment about a product breaking, or maybe someone had, like a comment about the website or my team, then I want to make sure that we're addressing it in real time. Or using that also as those numbers of like, hey, we had 100 5-star reviews and only one negative review. And then we're able to gauge like, okay, is this a one-off? Maybe this is just, we can have a percentage there. But we respond to every single review from 5-star to 1-star. So at least there is always someone who is reading every single review, responding to it, and it's just part of our process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you bring up a great point that sometimes it's not a product issue, but maybe it's a weird shipping experience or something like that. And being able to address
Yeah.
the overall experience as well as the product experience is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you got to be able to understand where the issue is coming from,
Mhm.
and if you can't do something about it, what is there anything we can do? And I think just being able to kind of break those apart and understand what you're dealing with.
Exactly. Yeah, and then another question here from the chat is, are you sending targeted reviews through Okendo or through your other sources like Attentive?
Yeah, so I think what we do is I will say I send my kind of list of who I want to target directly to my CSM. And she pushes that through. It goes through as like a kind of a new sequence. I think that's really going through it, like goes through and goes through to attentive. Um, but even just like in this time we've been here, Dean kind of mentioning, hey, if you could have different, maybe specific sequences just for your targeted sends, I can track that a little bit better. So those are some things. We also have done manual targeted sends, so not exactly the way we've kind of described of like, hey, here's a spreadsheet, I'm sending it to my CSM. I've had maybe like 100 customers I'm manually reaching out to through Gorgeous or through maybe my email. I think there's more automated ways to do that as well, but I think there's a lot of different options. And
Mm.
I think maybe hey, I am the first person to say I go to my CSM Monica and I'm like, please help me figure out what's the best way I can do this.
I love Monica for that. She
I'm like,
and then
please help me. And she does.
yeah. So I know we are over time here and we've got a couple questions in the chat left, and I want to make sure that I do answer them after, but we are over time. So I, oh, I got a weird message there, but we'll be sending out the recording, the deck, other helpful resources. I see some questions maybe about Gorgeous in the chat that I can send over our Help Center document there that would be helpful. But if anything comes up after within those emails that we'll be sending out after will be our support email, so that you will be able to get all of your questions answered, no problem. And Caela, thank you so much for joining us today. This was really, really fun. And Dean, thank you as well. I know it's early for you.
This has been a blast.
Yeah,
Thank
you're
you.
welcome. I've loved doing this as well. And I think, anyone can find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a chat. I think it's been so great to be able to kind of share what works for us, but like we can't do this without the help from Okendo, and I'm always learning on how to how to do better at this. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you, and we will see you on the next workshop.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
guys. Have a great
Bye,
day.
man.